Speaking of that, next I'm going to get into the Dr. Oz controversy with my guest, Adam Heller. We're going to talk about dealing with opposition in the medical community. It's Dr. Drew Midday Live with Mike Catherwood, Talk Radio, 790 KBC.
You're out to see the river, the wonderful living about. You'll find the
I get the Oz reference, but I'm not sure that's the Oz we mean to be discussing today. Of course, we're discussing Dr. Mehmet Oz and the recent controversy that was stirred up by a group who sent in a petition, essentially, to try to get him removed from his medical staff position, his teaching position, his faculty position at Columbia University. And to discuss, I have Adam Heller. Mr. Heller is a behavioral analyst, an expert in dealing with opposition in the medical community for the last decade. So, Mr. Heller, tell me what you think is at issue here and how you analyze this situation.
Well, thanks, and thanks for having me. It's very hard to create change, and often it takes a warrior, and really Dr. Oz is a warrior. He's a heart surgeon. For decades he's seen the results of bad habits, bad choices, bad behaviors, a bad system that led to people being laid out on his operating table, a lot of operating tables, even worse, dead. And it's an old paradigm, and the old system of waiting for people to develop symptoms and then micromanaging those symptoms with drugs and with surgery. And he changed the conversation. He changed the conversation to health and how to stay healthy rather than to fit the old system of just waiting for something to go wrong and then fixing it.
Now, how about, I completely agree with you, and my only issue with his having done so, and by the way, he's a great guy and a great professional, knows what he's doing, is that he's never practiced general medicine. So he's never been in a day in and day out basis with large numbers of people trying to get them to change and to change their health habits. It's difficult. The literature bears that out. It's exceedingly complex, and it's not as easy as a supplement or a fad or a new idea. Do you think he's assailable on that basis?
Well, I think it's easy to assail anybody on any basis these days, but I also don't think that it really requires day in, day out medicine. You know, it's difficult to lead change. When I wrote a book on ending chronic pain and showed that physical pain, almost back pain, has nothing to do with your spine. It's a $630 billion a year industry. I'm not a doctor at all. And I had a conversation with the CEO at probably the most renowned, respected healthcare provider in the world. And on that conversation, he said, look, this sounds like quackery, until he was paying free a week later and ordered a pilot program and a study and has me training their staff now. And so I don't think you have to be a doctor. Well,
but if you're dealing with these people like I do every day, or have for many decades, you start to understand that most of them are trauma survivors. Most of them are on opiates, and the big problem is the prescribing of opiates and the somaticizing and the dysregulation, and these things have very specialized treatment in addition to various kinds of physical therapeutics and getting people off the opiates. The point is, but be that as it may, the conversation is being had, and my position is, and you tell me if this is a reasonable position to take as it pertains to Dr. Oz, if they have issues with what he's saying on TV, why don't they help him do a better job of that? These experts at Stanford, who, by the way, have no idea what television is or how it's done or how you have to do it, how about making him better at what he does on TV? And why would you assail his teaching credential, which is unrelated to what he does on television?
Well, most likely he gets assailed because they have their own model of the world and they have their own agenda, and he's pointed some of that out already, that they take umbrage with his wanting to have GMO foods labeled.
Do you think that's valid? Do you think that's for real?
I think it's very valid. I think that most people, look, he speaks to millions, as you do, millions and millions and millions of people. 10 wrote this letter. 10 out of millions. Probably you and I can upset that many people on a typical day before Brexit.
Oh, but listen, if you know anything about how professional society works in medicine, he I guarantee you, will have to sit before a committee of his subspecialty organization. He will get an ethical evaluation. Doctors kill their young. They come after each other constantly, and every single complaint by whomever is taken exceedingly seriously. So he will be before the ethics committee of his organization. We have to take a quick break. Adam Heller is with me. We're discussing the Oz controversy. I support him. I don't support him 100% all the time, but I certainly think he's a great professional. He does great television, and he has potential to help lots of people. Why would you want to assail that guy? Why would you want to knock him down? By the way, why we need teachers. Why are you going to diminish his role as a teacher as well? It's Dr. Drew Midday Live, Talk Radio 790 KBC. Dr. Drew Midday Live, Talk Radio 790 KBC. I'm speaking to Mr. Adam Heller. We're talking about the controversy that Dr. Mehmet Oz has found for himself. Mr. Heller, where can people find you? Website, books?
Adam Heller, ADAMHELLER.com has access to everything that I do.
And how would people know you? What would they be coming to you for?
Most people would be coming to me for anything from emotional pain to physical pain. I wrote the book on the emotional psychological causes of physical pain, and have demonstrated over 90% of the time that spine and shoulder and knee have nothing to do with chronic or ongoing pain, and people can heal their own pain. They can take charge of their own health, similarly to what Dr. Oz is saying, that you can take charge of your own health and take charge of your own life. Right.
And today we are talking to Dr. Oz, who today he himself will be dedicating his entire episode to what is being called blasting his critics. He wrote an op-ed in response, which was beautifully written and just a very clear position. And he takes himself to task a little bit. He's critical of himself. He doesn't do weight loss supplements anymore. But again, I see in the whole weight loss supplement arena, that's how he got himself into trouble. He's never helped people lose weight. He's never done that. It's hard to develop judgment about these recommendations and these things that seem so great on paper unless you've seen them applied in the clinical sphere. That was the only case I was making. But that doesn't make him bad television. That doesn't make him bad at what he does. It doesn't make his message bad. It doesn't mean he should be not teaching cardiothoracic surgery. What is with the envy of his peers that they would go that route?
Well, people who get successful under a current model of the world, fear kicks in because they've become successful in that model, and if it changes, they may not be successful anymore. And you hit it right on the head before the break. You said we need teachers. Why don't these people come along? Because they're afraid of what he's doing. It's natural to be afraid of change, and medical community is amped up on being afraid of change.
Right. And, well, the other thing, we're such a military system. I was telling my executive producer today, when I first got on the radio, I knew because I wasn't the expert, I would be attacked from all sides for just stepping out of the military system and going into the media, because it's very there's soldiers, there are foot soldiers, there are lieutenants, and there are generals, and the generals are the ones that speak for everybody, and they set the agendas. When in fact the generals usually are terrible media. They don't know how to do media. They should be assigning or should be encouraging foot soldiers to get out there and do the kind of thing that Dr. Oz is doing.
Yeah, he has a method of persuading people to think differently, to look differently, to at least go get some information and make their own choices.
Right.
That elevates somebody, and you do a lot of the same thing. That elevates people to hero status, in my opinion, because it gives people power. It gives people control. It gives people the ability to make their own decisions, hopefully good ones with the right kind of information. And it takes that kind of audacity and that kind of push on the envelope to really change a paradigm.
I hope he also takes aim at, helps us move people towards the kinds of thing you're talking about, which is psychotherapeutic techniques, non-medicinal interventions that are not being funded and not being emphasized. I've been on a show a couple times where I tried to make that point. It's not as sexy a point to make as, hey, try this. This looks cool. Try this product.
Yeah, people want a pill, and the old system is you wait till something happens, you go to the doctor, you get a pill, or you have surgery. People
still do that. They're still oriented that way. And if they don't get that from a doctor, they're pissed.
Right, and the costs are tremendous, though. Yeah. Every time you go to the doctor, you have to miss work. This affects you. You're missing work. Then the insurance pays. Insurance goes up. All these costs, and it's a loop that just goes on and on and on, and there's no exit to the loop.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. I appreciate the conversation. AdamHeller.com, correct?
Yes, that's correct, and thank you so much for having me.
You got it. It's Dr. Drew Midday Live with Mike Catherwood, Talk Radio 790 KBC.